Hey everybody, Devin here with the Heartbeat Debrief, and welcome back. For those of you that are new here, this is the place for the things that don't make it into our charts. The doubt, the dark humor, and the weight that we carry with us long after the shift is over. And really, everything else in between. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to every single one of you. We just hit 4 months on this podcast. That is 120 days of you showing up, listening, and supporting one another. What started out as a hobby has turned into so much more for me, and I could not be more appreciative than I am for all of you. So thank you so much. If you can, continue to show your support, leave those comments, send me messages, leave reviews. I really do look at them. And as you all know, I've started dabbling into the video editing, and honestly, I've got a long way to go with that, but I am working on it. So I appreciate everything that you have to say. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm bringing on one of my coworkers, John, or as I know him, Bass. You guys will find out why we call him that in just a second. But we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about why morale matters and why celebrating the wins matters so much in healthcare. So with that being said, let's get to it.
The views and opinions expressed in Heartbeat Debrief are solely those of the host and guests. They do not represent the views of any employer or organization. This podcast is for educational, mentorship, and guidance purposes only. If protocols or policies are discussed, always follow your local or state organizational policies and procedures, regulatory guidelines, and scope of practice.
All right. So first off, I want to welcome John, or Bass as I know him, to the podcast. Super excited about today's podcast because Bass brings a lot of experience to this topic. And the topic that we're talking about is morale and why it matters so much, and the teamwork and the unit cohesiveness that we see. And specifically, those of us that work in the transport world in crews of 2, 3, or 4, and then the differences when you get into a larger unit, such as the emergency department or the ICU level. So super excited to bring you on the show, Bass. Can you tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, my name is John Biolette. Everybody calls me Bass because of my voice. I've been doing X-ray, CT, and MR for 30 plus years at this point. My only claim to fame is that I was the first employee hired for the mobile stroke unit 10 and a half years ago, although it does not seem like it's been 10 and a half years. It seems like yesterday we just started this program.
Been a long time.
Absolutely.
So being that mobile stroke, you and I have worked together for the last 5 years, and we both know that it's a small knit group of people. There's a total of, when I started, there was 20 of us on staff between all the disciplines. And then we have to sit in an office for 12 hours together, and we run calls in the city with other agencies, and we have to rely on each other. And we have to be able to have conversations, difficult conversations, uncomfortable conversations. But when we talk about morale, I want to talk about how this unit kind of differs from other units that we've worked on. For me specifically, I feel like the morale of our unit is really, really good comparatively to bigger units that I've worked on. People care about each other. They have each other's back. We work well as a team. Our cohesiveness is, I would say, top notch.
Absolutely.
What do you think attributes to our unit being so successful at that compared to, say, the ER or the ICU, given your history and background?
I think a lot of it is what you touched on earlier, the fact that we're 4 people in a very small metal box for 12 hours. You really get to know the people that you're working with. You're not one of 250 employees in an ED.
Right.
You're one of 20, and you work so closely together that you truly get a chance to know the people you work with.
Yep.
And you become more invested in them as a person, not just them as a coworker. You start to learn more about their life and why they're doing what they're doing and how long they've been doing everything. It makes a big difference because you really feel a much more personal connection to your coworkers than just going in and doing a 9 to 5 and going home.
True that. I absolutely agree. I think that the bigger your unit is, the harder it is to get to know people. For example, working in the ICU, there's, on any given day, there's 15 to 20 of us on the unit. And then we're spread out throughout the unit because we each have to sit, in our little alcove next to our rooms,
Yep.
and you only get to really talk to your neighbor on the left or the right of you. And so you develop these smaller groups of friendships in larger units, or even in the ER, there's 25 of us, and you don't mesh with everybody. You kind of gravitate towards certain people,
Right.
and you develop those friendships there. But to your point of, we sit in a metal box or in an office for 12 hours, and you really do get to learn who your coworkers are, their family, what their plans are for the holidays or the
Right.
summer, or, do they have anything big coming up? And everyone's getting invited to all of these functions.
Oh.
I think we do a really good job. We plan outings to baseball games, football games. We did a lake day last year,
Yep.
which I think is fantastic. Like, we're actively trying to involve everybody in our unit so that our bonding becomes stronger.
Right. It's not nearly as, for lack of a better term, superficial
Right.
as a lot of the bigger units are.
Yep.
You actually have a chance to know these people.
Yeah.
And that's huge for morale.
When you think of morale, what is your definition of morale? What does morale look like?
Good question. I think knowing that you're going to work as hard for the person next to you as you know they're going to work for you.
Okay.
All geared towards the patient's successful outcome.
Okay. I like that. I know, and there's probably some people listening that probably hate the word morale.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was always a buzzword for me, especially coming up in the military. We'd have mandatory morale days, and it's a way for the organization to demand fun, but the activities that they're demanding they're during the day, your work day, but they're not really fun per se. And it's trying to promote team bonding, but it's doing a really poor job at it.
Mm-hmm.
So people really didn't like the word morale. I think for me, when I look at morale, I look at level of like happiness of people in the job. When people come to work, are they excited to be there, or are they not excited to be there? Is it because of, staffing? Is there staffing issues and that's why unit morale is bad? Or has everyone had a really rough week and that's why morale is bad? Or did everyone have a fantastic week? Everyone had a great weekend. They're pumped to come to work and talk to their friends. That I also think has a play in morale.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely it does.
But then also kind of taking a look at, the goal for what your unit is trying to do. Like to your point, successful treatment and outcomes for the patient. I think bad morale can absolutely affect those.
Oh,
if
totally.
you have,
completely.
If your unit has bad morale, then who knows what your patient care is going to be like. Right. I absolutely think that those are valid.
If you don't have a connection to your coworkers at all, by having the connection with your coworkers, you want to see them succeed.
Right.
You want to succeed. And again, it all boils down to the patient care that you're going to give.
Yep.
So even when you're having a bad day, you have 3 other people who probably aren't.
Right.
So they will help bring you up for that call situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for, if they bring you up and you guys do have a successful treatment of that patient, then that it goes down as a win, at least in my
Absolutely,
book. Especially for us, right? Like, we are such a specialized unit treating strokes on the streets. I think our wins look a little bit different than wins like in the hospital.
Agreed.
So for you specifically, on those hard days, what does a win look like for you as far as teamwork goes?
I think when we overcome any obstacle, obviously we have connection issues on the truck.
Yep.
We have a lot of issues that ERs don't, because they're in a nice controlled environment.
Yep.
They're in a solid building. They don't worry about Wi-Fi connections. They don't worry about, if they can't send their images, a doc walks over and looks at the images. Whereas when we're on the streets, we have a lot of those issues.
Right.
So I think a win is every time that you overcome any obstacle that's thrown at you to still get that patient the best care possible in a timely manner. To me, that's a win.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that a win on those bad days, and like you mentioned, like we have connection issues, we can't send our images, we are in a part of town that has no signal, we can't communicate with the telehealth doc, or any of those number of things makes our job 10 times more difficult.
Absolutely.
Comparative to the ER.
Right.
They have their own separate issues that can cause them to have hard days. But I think all of those things lead to hard days for us. And then you throw in, one of us on the truck is having a bad day. We didn't get enough sleep. Our kids are at home sick and we couldn't stay and take care of them. And so our other half is taking care of them. Or, we had car issues or whatever it may be in our personal lives. We do our best to leave that at the door, but it still does affect us. And so that brings us down a little bit. And so that on top of all of these other issues that we may run into, those are really hard days. And I think overcoming those, like you said, and having a successful outcome, treating with TNK on the streets before we even get to the ER, or we get our images and we treat, and then we go, to IR. Those are successful cases in my book, and that would be considered a win even on those hard days.
Oh yeah. Visualizing in large vessel occlusion in somebody's driveway.
Yeah.
Is something I never thought would be possible.
Absolutely not. And I think that we are super lucky. I love this job. It's something that I never thought that I would ever do. And then when I saw this job, I was like, that sounds interesting. I want to do that. And we've done some really, really good stuff. And I think that component alone also contributes to our morale on the unit. We have fantastic outcomes, so everyone is excited to come to work, and the medicine that we do is groundbreaking and people are excited about it. Yeah. And I think that attributes really, really heavily to our unit morale and the cohesiveness that we all have.
Agreed. I mean, being the third in the country, fifth in the world when we first started,
right?
That's innovation right there.
Absolutely.
So the fact that people want to be, not only want to help patients who are having strokes, but want to be part of that innovation, literally from the ground up, has been amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I started, I came in kind of in the middle of our study, and then we completed that study a few years ago. And the results of that study allowed us to get a second truck in the state. And that second truck launched back in
February 2024.
And they are also now very successful in the south part of Colorado. And I would go on record and say that their morale is just as good as ours. We're obviously separate entities as far as staffing goes, but there are some of us who float between the regions. And even though we don't work with them all the time, or they don't work with us all the time, like any of our staff can float and they can jump right into, the group that they're with for the day, no problem, because of how well we all work and the things that we do together, like our Christmas party between the two regions. And everyone gets to talk to each other and bond. And I think it's really great.
Agreed. And I think that, to touch on that morale factor, and I apologize if you've said this earlier in your podcasts, we're a crew of 4 people. If one person doesn't show up or calls in sick, we're out of service.
We can't function.
So by having one department, even though we're 2 separate entities, if we don't have a medic that day, we can reach out to the medics from the Springs who come in and can come up and cover for us so that both units can be in service that day.
Yep.
So I think that truly plays into morale of everybody wants to see the unit succeed.
Absolutely.
They want to see their coworkers succeed. They want to be here to help patients.
Yep.
So that people will say, you know what, yeah, I'm off today, but I'll drive up and work.
Heck yeah. Yeah, no, it works super well. And I think we've been really successful over the last 5 years of being on the truck. Why do you think that healthcare is better at pointing out mistakes than successes? And, for me, when we talk about mistakes can affect morale and teamwork. But in healthcare, I feel like we're really, really good at pointing out the mistakes that somebody makes. Why do you think that is? And how does that play a role into the unit's morale?
So unfortunately, I think it's partly human nature. So you go to a brand new restaurant and you love it and you tell 2 people. You go to a brand new restaurant and you hate it. You tell 5 people.
Absolutely.
And they tell 10 people, And, you always bring up the stuff that's bad.
Yep.
Very rarely do you figure out, hey, you know what, we would hear, this was a great meal, best meal I've ever had. It trickles into healthcare.
Yep.
So now the one thing about, I feel like our crew in particular, because we have such good morale, I guess you'd say, and we have such a good working relationship with other people don't get defensive. So
I would agree.
when issues arise, you can truly have a constructive conversation
Yep.
about an opportunity that was missed and how to fix it without people
Getting butthurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do a really good job of debriefing after every run.
Mhm.
And in that debrief, everyone talks about the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
And I think everywhere else, having worked in the ER and the ICU, other places are very, very bad at talking about the good, the bad, the ugly after some form of an incident,
Right.
Whether that be a traumatic arrest, a medical arrest, or a significant event on the unit.
Sure.
I think as a whole, healthcare, we don't really do a good job of debriefing about things,
Mhm.
but people love to talk about how you did something bad.
Yep.
And
they did something right.
And they did something right. And, they don't come at it from a point of, hey, I noticed this happened. Let's talk about it and let's figure out how to prevent that next time.
Right. For the benefit of everybody on the unit.
Exactly.
Not just that person, but to grow as a unit.
Right.
And to, again, just provide better care overall.
And that is the goal, to provide better care overall. And to your point of, you tell people about bad restaurants or bad experiences more than you do good experiences. Mm-hmm. And that translates into healthcare. When you make a mistake, somebody talks to you about it, I would say 9 times out of 10 that they're not just going to talk to you about it. They're going to go talk to their best friend about the mistake that you made.
Correct.
And then that best friend is now going to tell their 2 best friends, and then their 2 best friends are going to talk to their 2 best friends. So now by the end of your shift, 8 or 9 people
mm-hmm.
know about this one mistake that you made.
Right.
And that is way more detrimental to the morale and
absolutely.
unit cohesion than you did something well.
Because it's not just the mistake that you made.
Right.
By the time it gets to 8 other friends, it's a telephone game.
Exactly.
So now you have 8 people who think you're completely incompetent.
Yep.
As opposed to making one simple mistake.
Exactly.
So,
that IV that you put in that didn't work or got infiltrated, super simple mistake,
right.
has now turned into it extravasated, and the arm turned necrotic, mm-hmm. and now they had to administer whatever.
Right.
Exactly. Like, it's that game of telephone, and now your reputation takes a hit, mm-hmm. and there's a rumor mill going around, and that's not good for unit morale, and that just drives everything down on mm-hmm. top of everything else that's already happening. If you've got short staff, if you don't have the right equipment, the right supplies, people are already unhappy, and then you start these rumors.
Right.
Rumors are super detrimental to healthcare, and I think healthcare does a really bad job of building people up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't celebrate the wins enough. I know places have like the Recognizing You program, or Daisy Awards, or the Bumblebee Award, or whatever these
whatever it may be.
Recognition awards
mm-hmm.
look like. And then you can nominate your coworker,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, you can be like, hey, you did a fantastic job. I want to try and give you some points on mm-hmm. your hospital's reward system.
Right.
But I don't think that we in healthcare do that enough for each other.
Yeah, we don't.
Like, I don't want to say celebrate the bad, but we mm-hmm. absolutely highlight the bad way more than the good.
We exaggerate it, for sure.
Yeah.
The bad is always exaggerated more than the good.
And it's not great for anyone in healthcare, especially given like our current state of healthcare.
Yeah.
You take that home with you.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of your bad day that you already had, now you have people talking about you. And
right.
so now you're starting to spiral. Your
mm-hmm.
mental health is now taking a hit, even more than it already was, because of the crappy situation that you're in at work or whatever.
Yep.
And you just start to spiral, and that nobody wants that.
No, it definitely could be the domino effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there a moment in your healthcare career that team morale has directly impacted a patient? Good, bad, neither. It can be before mobile stroke. It can be during mobile stroke.
You mentioned before, we all have lives. We all have stuff going on outside of work that, whether we wanted to or not, definitely trickles into our day jobs, if you will.
Yep.
I think there's been a couple times here on the truck where, you're just having a bad day for whatever reason. You've hit every IV for the last 6 months. And today you can't hit a single one with a rope in the guy's arm.
Can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Exactly. So, you just have those days and you're like, really? What is going on?
Yep.
And I think that having a crew that will be like, it's okay. You get your one. It's fine.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and we'll just start another IV over here.
Right. I got
Call
you.
it good. And it helps to put you back on track faster than, so you don't spiral.
Yeah.
One thing happens and then one more thing happens, and pretty soon 5 things have happened.
Yep.
And you feel like your entire case is just going off the rails.
Absolutely.
So by having, it only takes one person, one of the crew, to be like, it's all good.
I got you.
We got this.
Yep.
No problem. And it really does bring you back to where not only you can be, but where you should be.
Yeah.
But again, bad days will happen, and we all have them.
We all have bad days. I would absolutely agree. For me, I had one day, not a bad day, but it was my first day on the truck as a nurse. So having been on the truck for 3 years as a paramedic, I was finally able to transfer over as a nurse. And my very first day, I was very nervous. And, I told the crew that morning, I was like, look, I'm nervous to step into this new role. Like I've done my orientation, but it is very different than what I've done for the last 3 years. And I was very lucky that day to have a CT tech with experience, and I had a double medic on the truck. And straight out the gate, 8:30 in the morning, we got a stroke on the golf course, and we got there and it was a clear-cut LVO. But in my nervousness, I didn't have to really communicate what I needed to the crew, because as we were calling out vital signs and as I was going through my NIH, like the crew was looking at what was happening. They were picking up on the signs that that's definitely a stroke. That blood pressure is way too high. We're not going to be able to do anything until we get blood pressure augmentation. And I turned to look at the medic to ask for blood pressure augmentation, and he had a vial of labetalol and a syringe. He's like, how much do you want? Like that right there automatically brought my nerves down. I was like, we're good. We have a great crew. And I already knew that we had a great crew, but just that, and having worked side by side with them for the last few years, I was like, okay, we're in a good spot. Yeah. I don't need to be nervous. Yes, it's my first day, but this crew runs so well and so frequently together because there's only a few of us.
Sure.
That brought me up. And afterwards, we went out for ice cream. We took that win, we celebrated, we went and got ice cream. And I was just so thankful to the crew because I was like, guys, you've made my first day as the nurse way easier than what I was anticipating. And I was so nervous. And they were like, we got you. Yeah. Like, we're not going to let you down.
Right.
We got you.
And we're not going to let the patient down.
Right. We're not going to let the patient down.
And that's huge because, all of us know everybody else's role.
Yep.
We don't necessarily do other people's roles, but we know what the medic is supposed to do on a call. We know what the EMT is supposed to do on a call. It was the same thing for my first day as an EMT because I've been doing CT forever.
Yep.
But I went back to school. I got my EMT. My first day on the truck as an EMT, I was like, I haven't been this nervous in 20 years to go into a place.
But you know the truck.
Absolutely. Yep.
You shouldn't be nervous, right?
Yep.
But you are.
Yeah. And just knowing that, like you said, the crew has me.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yep.
So when they're directing you, when you're driving emergent to a call, you're like, okay, I know I'm going to get a 2 or 3 street advance.
Yep.
Then I'm going to have to turn left up here. And it's not going to be like, you should have turned left back there,
right.
Kind of thing. So it really does make a huge difference.
I agree. And I think that if our morale was lower, if people didn't like working here, if people didn't like working for the hospital system, anything that attributed to not liking this job, right? I don't think we would be successful.
Agreed.
And I think like our patients would pay the price.
They would. I mean, this is so unlike anything else because we're not really an ambulance.
No,
well,
not
kind
really.
of like a mobile ER
Kind of, yeah.
but we're not a CT department for sure.
Definitely not.
And
we're not a neuro ICU.
Exactly.
But
we're not just a truck.
Right. So we don't fall into the realm of regular EMS.
Right.
We don't fall into the realm of fire department. We don't follow into the realm of hospital. So we are very much a unique truck. And with that comes unique intricacies, I would say. How do you think that small gestures can make a big difference during difficult shifts? And I'm not talking like, oh, the hospital wants to throw a pizza party for Nurses Week or ice cream day for healthcare heroes or whatever. I'm not talking about those. Like small things that you've seen that can make a bad shift just completely flip.
Again, I think it's the crews being there for one another.
Okay.
Because again, I missed an IV. We're not pointing and laughing and be like, you can't get an IV.
Right.
It is truly one of those things where you're like, okay, and it lets you go back to, I've been starting IVs for 30 years. I can get an IV.
Yep.
It's fine, and you don't begin to spiral.
Yeah.
In my career, I've been a staff tech, I've been a manager, I've been a supervisor, and kind of run the gamut. One thing that I always make sure that I do, the end of every shift, I say thank you. We're walking out at night. Thanks for everything today, guys.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great night. Be safe. It's quick. It's easy.
It is.
But
it is a small token of appreciation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I will say, you do that hands down every single shift. Like there's not a day that I walk out of here that you don't thank every single one of us.
Yeah.
Or even after a call, you're always like, what else can I do? How can I help you? Do you need me to wipe the truck down? Can I do this while you go chart?
Right.
You, compared to probably anybody that I've ever worked with, are way more inclined to show your appreciation to anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why, one, I wanted to bring you on, because you really care about the teamwork.
Yes.
And I think you've seen over your years good teams, bad teams.
Completely.
And you've been able to pull together how to make a cohesive team. And you're not in a leadership role right now, but you act like one. You act like a leader, and all of us look up to you. And I'm very appreciative to everything you've taught me over the last 5 years. But I do see that on days that you're not here, things run a little differently. You bring a whole different aspect to teamwork and unit cohesion. And I just think that your years have really taught you some good lessons.
Absolutely.
To pass on to the rest of us.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, is like, you're going to have bad days.
Yeah.
But it's how you recover.
Yep.
And that you still have a crew that is more vested in you than just as a coworker.
Yep.
Makes a huge difference.
Yep.
Because you want to do well for them.
Yeah.
You want to do well for yourself.
And you want to see not just yourself succeed, but you want to see your teammates succeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to see them go back to school and get their degree, or further their degree, or they want to transfer to a different unit and they have to work their way to there, or they want to take on a leadership role. And so you're there to support them, not just because they're your coworker, but because they're your teammate, and they've essentially become your family in these small crews.
Absolutely.
That people run with.
Yeah.
How do you think the leadership role plays in protecting morale? So from the top down, how do you think that those at the top protect the morale of the units?
It's a difficult one, because a lot of times you don't necessarily, you may see your direct supervisor, but you don't see the top down.
Right.
So you kind of think, does the top truly even know what I do?
Agreed.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to build that up within the group so that you have a foundation. So if you don't get praise from your leadership, at least everybody there knows we're doing a good job.
Yep.
And I think that goes a long way.
I agree. Do you think that coming from the top down and them not having, a good idea of what you do or how the unit is, truly doing, right? Like all the way at the top, they have an idea of how the unit is functioning, and they see the metrics, right? But they looking at metrics, you can't tell the difference. You may be able to, but the difference between a unit with high morale and is functioning great, like interpersonally, versus a unit that has okay morale and, you know, their interpersonal relationships are just okay, but their metrics are still like holding.
Right.
Like, do you think that it's a problem from the top down that they're not more invested in their units?
Well, the problem is I don't think they can be. So, I mean,
Fair.
when you look at an organization like ours, it's massive.
Yep.
And every leader has multiple departments below them.
Yep.
So you may have an idea of like what mobile stroke is doing, or what this unit over here is doing, or what that department over there is doing. But one person can't truly know X, Y, and Z, what has happening across the board, because they just don't have the bandwidth.
Right.
And that's not a slight on anybody.
No, absolutely
It's
not.
just one of those things where as humans, we can only process so much.
Right.
So
I can't process 10 departments.
Exactly.
Every single person in that department.
Right. On a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
You know, so that's where the numbers come into play in the metrics. You can kind of look at it and be like, okay, overall, it looks like this department's doing fine. Okay, cool. Let's move to the next one. Their metrics don't look so good. So now I need to focus on that department to get them back up to where they should be, just for kind of middle of the road.
Right.
This department over here is excelling. Cool, great. That means that department over there that's excelling doesn't get any attention at all.
Right.
Because you're already doing well. So good job, you.
I don't need to pay attention to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I need to focus my bandwidth elsewhere.
Correct.
You're doing great, whatever it is that you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're performing fantastically.
Right.
Now I can focus my energy on these two departments, this okay department, get them up even higher, and then this subpar department, at least get them to okay performance.
Right.
And then that leader then goes to their, you know, lower leaders and then be like, okay, what can I do to help?
Right.
But I feel like, you know, there are some organizations that I've worked with that conversation between the top leader and the middle leaders of, hey, what can I do to help you, doesn't happen often. And I think that's when true morale really starts to suffer, because then that shows, you know, the line staff that, all right, my direct manager may care, but the one above them doesn't really care that we're having performance issues or that we're having high turnover or whatever. And that, I think, also affects morale.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of those things where we don't have a ton of turnover on our unit.
Right.
And I think that that's huge.
Yeah.
For morale, because people come here and they stay here.
Yep.
Because they like it here.
Exactly.
And they believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And that's, nobody wants a job where you go in, you do your job, and you're like, I amounted to nothing today.
Right.
You know, so I think that if you have that opportunity to work with a crew that you're like, you know what, I'm invested in these people.
Yeah.
And the morale is good. And, you know, you can do a lot when you don't think you can do a lot.
Agreed. And I think being invested in your crew or your unit, that goes a long way. And if you can take the relationships that you make at work, and then you can translate those outside of your unit or the crew, and you can, you know, hang out on ones and twos or in groups and do activities that don't revolve around anything healthcare wise. And you find yourself talking to these people and communicating with them on a daily basis, and nothing revolves around your job. I think that is super important. Like, I will say all of my friends are all in some form of healthcare. That is the relationships. That's how I met them. And, you know, we've kept that, but that's not the bond that keeps us together.
Right.
You know, for me, I can talk to pretty much anybody about Star Wars. And, you know, you and me, for example, I can come on shift and we talk about the new Disney shows that are out, Darth Maul that just launched, whatever movies are coming out, The Mandalorian. You and I can sit and talk Star Wars for hours.
Yes.
You know, I have friends that I can build puzzles with, game nights, I can go hiking, I can go on cabin trips, I can do all these things with these people, and it does not have to revolve around my job.
Right.
And I think that is super important, because then you not only build relationships at work, but then you become invested with them as a person outside of work. And now you're excited to work with them when you see that you're on the schedule together, or be like, hey, we're going to make our schedule, we should try and get on the same days, those types of things. And that tenfold, I think, boosts morale as a whole
Oh,
and
absolutely.
is super important.
Yep. And I think that's one thing that we love about our crew is you never look at the schedule
Never. No.
because it doesn't matter who you're going to work with. You're going to have a good crew that day.
Right.
And that is so important. There's so many times when you hear people be like, yep, I know who I'm working with today. I'm not going to, I just want to call in.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to deal with it.
I just don't want to deal with it. Yep.
And I think that having good morale, especially in a smaller unit, is immeasurable.
Yeah, I would agree. So my last question is going to be, how do you personally celebrate wins, even like the quiet ones? Like, what do you personally do that, like, I had a great day, the crew had a great day, or even in your personal life, you had something fantastic happen to you. Like, what do you do to celebrate those?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. I knew that answer. I knew that. Yeah, I walked into that one.
You did, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, ice cream.
It's just been slow pitch around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hitting out of the park.
Yep.
That's actually hard for me to answer.
Yeah.
It is because I'm like, I try to be pretty even all the time. So even when my highs, I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I know that at some point that other shoe's going to drop.
Right.
So even though it's a really good day, maybe tomorrow will be a bad day.
Maybe. Yeah.
I
I think for me, celebrating a win, ice cream for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I'm in ICU for the night and I have a really good night, or we had a win on the unit, like one of our babies gets to go home, or one of our babies is, planned extubation and like flies with soaring colors and does super well for that night. Like, that's a win in my book.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just for me, but for my baby and for the family,
Mhm.
because now that family is super excited, right? So now everyone's just really hyped up, or they're super, super ecstatic that something good happened. I want to go out to breakfast.
Mhm.
Like, I want to see if anyone else on the unit wants to go to breakfast,
Yeah.
or even when I get home, be like, hey, we want to go out for dinner.
Mhm.
And be like, why do we want to go out for dinner? I had a really great day.
Absolutely.
I want to keep the celebration going.
Mhm.
And then I get to tell my partner about the really good day that I had.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's kind of how I would celebrate wins and just kind of ride that win and celebrate for, as long as I can, until, to your point, the other shoe drops.
Right.
And then, the other shoe drops and you're like, dang, this sucks.
Yep.
But then you have to remember that day that you just had yesterday?
Mhm.
You could turn today into that day.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to let that one bad shoe bring your entire day down.
Law of averages.
And right.
It'll come back up.
Exactly.
Yep. You can bring it back up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and that's when you rely on your team to be like, hey, I need some extra help today, or I'm having a really rough time at work. Can you help me get caught up on something? Or can you stock my cart or my room? Or would you mind cleaning the back of the truck? I have so much charting to do. Whatever it is, right? Like, lean on your people. They are there to support you when you're down 30%. They can pick you up 30% so that you're back to 100.
Yep.
At least in my mind.
Agreed. Well, especially that's, you're going to have a down day.
Yeah.
They're going to have a down day.
Yep.
It's all going to even out.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be able to help raise them up, as well as they're going to be able to help raise you up when you have your down day.
Yep.
So, but I do agree to your point where my wife hears a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, when it isn't good or bad.
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah. And
you probably hear more about the bad days, just
Yep.
like you hear more about bad restaurants.
Yeah, exactly.
We've come full circle. And I would say that me personally, I probably do a worse job of talking about my wins than I do my bad days. Because you get in your head and you're like, man, this happened. And then, our connection went down, or we blew a flat tire. And then the rest of the day just went to complete crap.
Yep.
But then you have a solid slam dunk, stroke, treated, scanned, all of that. And you're like, yeah, I had a great day.
Yep.
Had LVO patients treated with TNK.
Yep.
Or they went to IR, went to the ICU an hour later, they were fine.
Yep. The goods can
But
definitely
you don't
outweigh
talk
the
about
bad.
it that much.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
down. All right, Base. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Sharing your expertise and, your thoughts on this important subject
Sure.
and why morale matters and how it kind of gets lost a little
Mhm.
in those bigger units. And I think everyone can probably take something away from this episode. So I really do appreciate it.
Of course. I think the biggest thing is a thank you.
Yeah.
At the end of the shift goes so far.
Goes a long way.
It is the smallest thing you can do, but it has the biggest implications for a crew. Just to know that good day, bad day, whatever, somebody appreciated that you were there that day.
Right.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not a pizza party.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think a thank you goes a really long way, especially after hard days.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Heartbeat Debrief. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for all the latest updates. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, or go get you some swag from the shop. Until next time, take care of your patients and take care of yourself. Because in healthcare, you never really clock out.